For nearly 3 years, KXAN has uncovered turnover, backlogs, and months-long delays for victims of violent crimes trying to get help from the state of Texas. This week on Inside the Investigation, senior investigative producer David Barer breaks down the long-awaited improvements that could bring critical financial assistance to victims quickly. Hello there, welcome to Inside the Investigation. I'm Christopher Adams, in for Kelly Wiley this week. And today I'm joined in the studio by KXAN's senior investigative producer, David Barer. David, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So we are talking about some of the reporting that you and our investigative reporter, Matt Grant, have been doing for the past 3 years as part of our Held Up series, focusing on issues with the Texas Crime Victims Compensation Fund. Now, victims would sometimes have to wait up to a year before getting any help, but a new state law aims to change that. So David, before we go any further, explain to us what exactly is this Crime Victims Compensation Fund and who's responsible for it?
Yeah, so the CVC fund is managed by the Texas Office of Attorney General, and it's a fund of last resort for victims of violent crimes, and it can pay for things like medical expenses, therapy, lost wages, and the money mostly comes from federal grants and court fees. And so victims of these violent crimes could be a sexual assault, a robbery, an aggravated assault, or even the families, members of murder victims could get some money from it. The thing that we found over the years that we've been reporting on this is that victims trying to access funds were getting pretty frustrated. They were waiting 6 months and even longer to get a first payment on their claim and receive assistance.
Why was it taking so long for people to get some of these reimbursements?
So when we first started, a big issue in the office that we were hearing about from employees was short staffing. They were telling us that the office was essentially dysfunctional. There was a lot of turnover and new people. Something to understand about the Crime Victims Compensation Program is that it's complicated. The application process is complicated. The policies and procedures are complicated. So it takes time for workers to get up to speed on all those, the intricacies of the job. And so with a lot of turnover and vacancies, the speed that they were able to process claims was way down. And that left victims of violent crimes waiting months, like we just said. We have seen that the staffing levels are stabilizing and wait times are going down. So that's a positive development.
Yeah, we'll talk a little more about those reduced wait times here in a moment. But first, I want to give an example here. So you and Matt spoke to a woman named Terry Rager who was trying to navigate this system. What was the experience like for her?
Yeah, so Terry was a victim of a robbery. She was thrown to the ground and her purse was ripped off of her at a grocery store parking lot in 2022. And so after that incident, she had medical bills. She was diagnosed with PTSD, anxiety, and depression. And she was left almost unable to work. It was very, very difficult time for her. After the suspect was sentenced to prison, she sought help from the Crime Victims Compensation Fund.
Right, and what happened to her claim?
So she went through some things. Some were things we've heard from many other victims, like the application process was really cumbersome. She struggled to get through to workers when she was calling, getting a call back. The paperwork process was difficult to get through. She was submitting paperwork, it was getting bounced back, and she was just struggling to get through that sort of rigmarole. Another problem that was somewhat unique to her is that she's a self-employed real estate agent, and so she didn't have a sort of rigid, like an hourly pay or salary that could be easily quantified for lost wages. And she said she was told by the CVC office that their system wasn't really equipped to handle that type of employment. And so she was going through that as well. And so all of that, added together, she said, made it really like a drawn out process, difficult to get the funds. And so she was waiting a long time.
And has she received any compensation now? It's been, a year and a half since you first filed these claims.
That's right. So she received a full payment in June, a year and a half after she first applied, and the CVC fund reimbursed her $50,000, which is the maximum amount by law in a case like hers. The total could be higher for victims of that have experienced like a total and permanent disability, like losing a limb or a paralysis.
Okay, yes. So Terry's, a good example, and you and Matt have spoken to several others in your reporting as well of, problems with this system. People waiting months for the funds to come in. We do know that lawmakers eventually started paying attention, though, to your reporting. A new state law went into effect just a few days ago on September 1st. What are the changes here?
Yeah, so one of the big changes is that they now have a benchmark of 90 days on average to make a first payment on a victim claim. And I think there's a question in the near future that I'm going to explain further how that all works. But yes, the benchmark is now 90 days on average. And from the data that we've seen, they are getting closer to hitting that.
Right. And also they pass another measure as well, which allows the state to issue what they call emergency payments to some victims in specific cases. Who is eligible to receive that kind of funding?
All right. So the emergency payments are part of House Bill 3745, and that took effect on September 1st. And those payments will be given out in cases where it appears likely that if the application will be approved and a victim will suffer undue hardship if they don't get immediate economic relief.
So lawmakers also are looking at something a little bit more complicated here, how the state is actually reporting the wait times with these reimbursements. We know that it's taking a very long time for victims to get funds, but talk to me about how the previous reporting from the state tried to sort of make things look a little better than they actually were.
Yeah, so this was happening because of the way the law was written, and that's why the law had to be changed. But I'll try to explain this in a simple way. Essentially, there are two different types of claims. One is a victim claim, the one that Terry Reger was doing, and what most people would think of as the type of claim that this program provides, and that's help to victims. Victims file the application, they handle it themselves. Now, there's another type of claim that's paid out through this fund, and it's sexual assault examination reimbursements. And those, if a person goes in and gets that exam, the hospital is the one that handles that claim. The hospital or the medical provider goes directly to the OAG's office. They handle that separately from the survivor, and it takes just a few days, like typically less than a week. So what was happening is the office was averaging victim claims with sexual assault examination reimbursement claims, and that was causing the time frame, for a first payment to look much lower than it was in reality for victims. So what they're doing now is after our reporting, and we pointed this out, they're going to separate them, and they're going to have a different benchmark for victim claims from sexual assault examination reimbursements. And like I said before, the benchmark now for victim claims is 90 days on average.
Right, that's the benchmark. Are they getting any closer to seeing that in those average wait times?
They are. Wait times have been trending down. Right now, they're averaging about 3.5 months from the data that they provided us. So that's a positive development and pretty close to their benchmark.
Especially because, last year the average was 8 months. So to be down, closer to 3.5 months, things working in the right direction there. You and Matt have been working on this series for 3 years. What has the Attorney General been saying to you during this time? It seems like he hasn't been that willing to talk to you about this topic.
Yeah, we haven't heard much from them. We've reached out to the PIO's office multiple times over the last several years. And on this specific topic, they haven't really responded to us. So we haven't gotten much of an explanation from the public, from the communications office, but they've been fulfilling our record requests, and that's what we've been using mainly to do a lot of our reporting.
And very important reporting. Thank you so much, David, for that and for your time today. You can also take a look at Matt and David's reporting, either the web story or the TV version right now on KXAN.com. Just click on the Investigations tab at the top of the website. Thank you so much for joining us this week on Inside the Investigation. I'm Christopher Adams. We'll see you next time.